Welcome, builders of the internet. My name is Jessa, and today I'm going to discuss healthy habits and explore how they can become unhealthy to hopefully help manage your well-being and maintain a lifestyle that works better for you. As always, you can find my sources in the description. It's building on my mind. Forming a healthy lifestyle. The definition of healthy habits is pretty self-explanatory. A habit is something that is practiced regularly, and when we choose to do healthy ones in particular, it means we're doing it for the benefit of our well-being. For the purposes of this video, I'll split the variables in our lifestyle that have an influence on personal health into 6 main categories: diet, physical activity, sleep, substance use, recreation, and learning. Diet. Diet is arguably the largest factor in our lifestyle that can have a positive or negative consequence on our health, and I'm sure we've all been told at school of ways that we can eat healthier, such as having fruit and vegetables, eating regular meals, etc. So I'm not going to bore you with information that I'm sure you've heard over and over again. The only thing that I think is always worth pointing out though is just to remember to eat things in moderation. It's fine to allow yourself to eat sweets and to treat yourself, just as long as you're not having too much. Otherwise, it is easy for these habits and patterns to become unhealthy. A core principle of having healthy behaviours is to make sure that the healthy choice is an easy choice. So if you have healthier snacks around the house, such as fruit or rice cakes, instead of sweets, it makes it much easier to have a healthy diet. A useful indicator to determine whether eating habits are healthy is your body mass index, or BMI, which has thresholds where if you're under a certain number, then you could be classed as underweight, and if it's over another number, you could be classed as overweight or even obese. It's not absolute with these BMI figures. I'm technically classed as overweight, but I would say that I'm pretty active with my lifestyle and have quite a lot of leg muscle, which pushes me into that overweight category. However, these numbers can give you indications that you might want to consider making some changes to your diet to lead to a healthier lifestyle. The second variable is physical activity. This doesn't have to be incredibly strenuous. If you mostly do light and moderate exercise with small doses of high intensity stuff, this can reduce the long-term risk for cardiovascular disease and overall mortality. Generally, there is a Goldilocks zone for physical activity, which the CDC Physical Activity Guideline says is about 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of intense activity per week. Of course, not doing enough exercise can increase the risk of heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. However, on the opposite end of the spectrum, excessive strenuous exercise is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease or other types of conditions that I don't exactly know how to pronounce. People who train too hard are also at risk of muscle strains, ligament and tendon injuries, or possibly some sleep disturbance in the short term, whilst some long-term effects are conditions which can lead to osteoporosis or prolonged fatigue. These side effects are much less common though, and I think it is unlikely that too many people nowadays will find themselves in the position of overdoing it. For most of us, including myself, it's probably better to get out of this sedentary lifestyle where we sit down in the same position at our desks for the majority of the day. Sleep is the third variable, and as with the other factors so far, there is a balance in making sure you don't have too much or too little. The definition for the ideal amount of sleep does vary quite a lot in the literature available, but for this video I'll say it's the amount of sleep that lets someone be fully awake and able to sustain normal levels of performance during the day. You're probably likely to feel refreshed in the morning after a healthy amount of sleep. The exact number of hours does vary from person to person, as there are many factors for good sleeping habits. This includes thinking about how consistent your levels of sleep are, the timing of when you go to sleep and wake up, how satisfactory you find your sleep, and your sleeping patterns, such as how much you nap. The US National Sleep Foundation recommends that this is usually between 7 to 9 hours a night for adults aged 18 to 64, and when we sleep enough, it can help our immune system, boost mental well-being, and we are less susceptible to gaining excessive weight. It is becoming increasingly common for people to have insufficient levels of sleep, particularly among adolescents and the elderly. For teenagers, this is usually attributed to factors such as lack of physical activity, use of technology, artificial light, and caffeine use. And for the elderly, there are factors such as being inactive and age-related health complications that can make it harder to sleep. Not getting enough regular sleep increases the risk of serious medical conditions such as obesity, heart disease, and diabetes, as well as shortening your life expectancy. Again, on the flip side, when you sleep too much, which could be over, say, 10 hours, you could have lower sleep quality, which affects your memory, your thinking, and your overall performance on brain tests. Finding the balance is so important, and to be honest, sleep is one I'm still really struggling with at the moment. My body always automatically wakes me up after about 6 hours, no matter how early I go to bed, which can be a little bit frustrating. The fourth facet is substance abuse, which is when someone continues to misuse any mind-altering substance, which can severely affect their physical and mental health, or their social situation and other responsibilities. In our society, this is most commonly seen in alcohol dependence, but any drug, including those used for recreational or medicinal purposes, can be misused in this way too, including drinking excessive amounts of coffee. People may try substances for various reasons, such as wanting to experiment, curiosity, or influence from peers, and they might really enjoy the experience and want to repeat it. For some, it might start as a coping method to help them through difficult times, but these alleviated feelings are relatively short-lived, so they might find themselves wanting to use the substances more and more and more until they risk becoming dependent on them. Dependency introduces a lot of issues such as social, financial, and health-related complications. The number of people with a serious problem in this department is relatively small, but it can severely affect the people around them without them even realizing. The fifth category is recreation, which is definitely the most vague out of all of these categories. It is basically grouping together everything that we choose to do in our leisurely pastimes. Some of us might enjoy playing or listening to music, socializing, doing video games, sports, or using modern technologies such as our computers or phones. It has been found that excessive phone use can be associated with more sleep disturbances and symptoms of depression and stress. And as with pretty much all habits, there is a line between doing too much, where it becomes an unhealthy obsession and then becomes dependency. If you want to determine whether your recreational activities are healthy, I think a lot of this comes down to looking at how you feel when you spend your time doing this activity, and trying to analyse how it might affect those around you. It is worth bearing in mind how it might impact the other health factors that I mention in this video, but there is definitely no hard and fast rule for what constitutes as acceptable healthy things to do in your free time. My mindset is as long as you're not hurting anybody, including yourself, with your actions, then do what you like if it brings you feelings of contentment and increased life satisfaction. This last consideration is to do with study. If we keep our minds open to learning and developing our knowledge, skills, and experience throughout our lives, then it can be better for maintaining our mental well-being. This is because it can help improve our self-esteem. It can encourage more social interaction, say for example if we take part in activities to learn new skills or find more things to talk to others about, as well as improving our abilities to cope with stress. This is because learning focuses our attention on the present moment, so there is less thoughts and worries to do with the past or the future. The things we learn don't have to be incredibly taxing. It could be, say, reading a news article a day, listening to podcasts or radio shows, learning a new recipe, and the list goes on and on and on. But from personal experience, there is definitely a line with studying too much. particularly for students who have a lot of upcoming exams. So make sure that you consider how your study habits are impacting the other 5 facets of your life, and that you have time to take care of your physical and mental health too. What works best for me? If you're contemplating making changes to your current lifestyle, a good place to start would be to take a look at your current routine and how you feel about it. Do you feel like you have enough time to relax and do the things that bring you joy? Are you making decisions that will benefit all aspects of your health, such as your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional and social well-being? If you do feel good with your current routine, it is also worth considering whether this routine is sustainable in the long term. Before Christmas, for example, I was essentially working 16 hours a day and didn't find any time at all to do exercise or other recreational activities. So whilst I was really satisfied and happy with how much I was achieving in my work life, I decided to make some changes so that I could be happier about other areas that I value too. If you want to make changes, it's good to pinpoint the areas that you think could use improvement and will affect your overall satisfaction. Decide on a goal for yourself of what exactly you would like to aim for, then make a plan of the most simple changes you can do to get you to that point. For example, if I said I wanted to run a 10k, I wouldn't go straight from doing no running at all to all of a sudden getting up one morning and expecting that I would be able to do a 10k. I might start by maybe making myself go for a walk first thing in the morning, then gradually building myself up to that point. In order to form new habits, in general, it does help to be consistent with when and where you choose to implement this new change, and so choosing a time and a place that will be easy for you to commit to. Then, every time you come across this time or place, do the action of the habit you want to form. This is definitely the hardest step, but I promise, once you've started, it will get easier over time. A lot of people have heard that it takes 21 days to form a new habit, but more relevant research has actually found that things start becoming automatic for people after around 66 days after the first time they've tried it. This is nearer to 10 weeks rather than the 3 weeks we're used to hearing, so yes, it is longer, but it is a more surefire way to integrate these new patterns into your life. Thank you so much for watching this video. The 6 main categories I like to account for to ensure that I have a more well-rounded life are 1. Diet, 2. Physical activity, 3. Sleep, 4. Substance use, 5. Recreation, and 6. Learning. The lifestyle that works for you will probably be different and unique to others around you, and may well vary throughout your life as circumstances change. But in order to maintain your overall well-being, it is good to have it in the back of your mind how your actions will benefit you both in the short term and in the long term. That's all I have to say for now. I hope it helped build on your mind. Thanks for watching this channel, it's building on my mind. Check out my other videos, but first hit the bell and comment, like, subscribe. Please it really helps with the algorithm.